Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into some really, really expansive ideas.
We are. It's all based on these fascinating sources. One of you sent us the Convoluted Universe series by Dolores Cannon.
Right, and we spent some time with these transcripts, hypnotic regressions, past lives.
Interdimensional beings.
Right.
I mean, fundamental questions about reality itself. It's pretty dense stuff, but really thought-provoking.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we know this kind of material can feel, well, a bit out there, maybe, stepping outside the everyday.
Definitely.
But our goal here isn't just to, list off concepts. We want to really dig into the core insights these books present about consciousness, reality, our place in it all.
Exactly. Think of it like we're trying to unpack these sometimes mind-bending perspectives, see what resonates.
What's the sort of mission here? What are we hoping you take away?
Well, I think it's about exploring what these specific sources suggest, about how reality might work, the soul's journey, this idea of interconnectedness, offering a different lens, maybe?
A fresh lens. I like that. Okay, so let's dive in. One of the first things that jumps out is this idea that our normal three-dimensional view is, well, it's not the whole picture.
Not at all. That's a really consistent theme. The sources describe realities beyond just, length, width, depth. They talk about multiple dimensions.
But not just like more space.
No, exactly. It's more about fundamentally different ways of perceiving, different ways of being. It's just what we call real is maybe just one channel on a whole cosmic TV.
Huh. Makes you wonder what else is playing. And then they get into parallel universes.
Yeah, that too. Not just like other planets far away, but whole other Earths almost. Reality is really similar to ours, but with slight or maybe big differences. They mention counterparts living out other choices.
Counterparts. Wow, so like another version of me made a different decision this morning.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
It really messes with that idea of a single fixed reality, doesn't it? It paints reality less like a single road and more like this huge branching tree of possibilities all happening.
Simultaneously.
That's the implication. Our choices might ripple out in ways we just don't usually perceive.
Okay, that's a lot to chew on. And then there's time. The sources keep saying time isn't linear.
Right. That's another big mind bender. The idea that past, present, future, it's all existing now.
How? Our whole experience is sequential. First this, then that.
I know. It completely challenges our perception. If all time is now, what does that do to cause and effect?
Yeah.
To the story of our lives?
It changes everything.
It really does. The books often use this analogy that reality is like a dream.
A dream.
Yeah, and we're sort of expressions within that dream, characters maybe.
Yeah.
It implies our consciousness isn't just watching the dream, it's actually helping to create it.
So we have some creative power in this reality dream.
That's what the sources suggest, a level of influence we might not even realize we have.
Okay, so reality is multi-layered, time isn't straight. Let's shift gears a bit to the soul. The books talk a lot about the soul's journey.
Oh, absolutely. A central idea is that souls, well, they originate from a source, you could call it God, the universe, whatever term works.
The source, okay.
And from there, souls embark on these journeys for learning, for experience.
Yeah.
And Earth. Earth is presented as a particularly, let's say, intense school.
Intense, like difficult.
Difficult, but valuable. A place you come to experience, well, everything. The full spectrum. Joy, pain, love, fear. The works.
Yeah.
That's seen as crucial for soul growth.
You have to experience it all. And that ties into karma, right? But maybe not how people usually think of it.
Exactly. It's often misunderstood. In these sources, karma isn't really about cosmic punishment or reward. It's presented more as a learning mechanism, like balancing the books energetically.
Balancing the books.
Yeah, so if you caused harm, you might need to come back and experience the other side of that situation. Not as payback, but for understanding, to truly get the impact of action.
Well, okay, so it's about empathy, built over lifetimes. That feels different, more constructive.
It does. And then you had these concepts like volunteers.
Volunteers. Who are they?
The idea is these are souls who don't necessarily have past Earth karma to work through. They choose to incarnate here, right now especially, specifically to help.
Help with what?
With the planet's evolution, basically. Raising the overall consciousness, assisting during this time of major change. They come in with a different energy, a desire to serve.
Interesting. And walk-ins. That sounds dramatic.
It can sound that way.
Yeah.
The concept described is that a different soul can enter a physical body, sometimes temporarily, sometimes permanently.
How? Does the original soul just leave?
It's usually depicted as happening through mutual agreement between the souls involved. Maybe the original soul feels its work is done or needs a break, and another soul with specific skills or purpose steps in. It could be for assistance or for the incoming soul to have a specific experience.
Wow, so cosmic shift changes. And what about the idea that we aren't even fully here, that part of our soul stays elsewhere?
Yes, the concept of aspects. The sources suggest that the soul, our larger consciousness or oversoul, is vast, way bigger than can fit into one physical body.
So the me I experience is just a piece.
Kind of, yeah, like one finger of a whole hand.
Mm-hmm.
The larger soul might have multiple aspects, multiple fingers, having different experiences in different realities or time frames, all simultaneously.
To gather more experience.
Exactly. It's all feeding back into the growth of the whole soul. So even when we feel separate, we're connected to this much bigger part of ourselves.
Okay, my brain is officially stretched. Let's talk about other beings. Interdimensional beings pop up a lot in these books.
They do. It's consistently presented that we're not alone, not by a long shot.
Mm-hmm.
There are beings existing in, well, these other dimensions we were talking about.
Do they interact with Earth?
Yeah.
Spaceships?
Sometimes maybe, but often it's described differently. Less about physical travel across space
Mm-hmm.
and more about shifting vibration
Mm-hmm.
or adjusting their perception to be able to interact with our frequency of reality.
Tuning in, like we said before.
Yeah, exactly like tuning in.
Yeah.
And communication is often described as telepathic,
Mind to mind.
direct transfer of thought, feeling, understanding. No language barriers that way. The sources also mention things like higher councils.
Councils, like committees.
Sort of, yeah. Groups of more evolved beings who apparently oversee or assist the development of planets, including Earth.
Oh,
Like cosmic guidance counselors, maybe.
okay. And energy beings. Beings made of just energy.
That's another concept, yeah. Consciousness existing without a physical form as we know it. Highly mobile, able to travel, observe.
Do they interact much?
Sometimes. Interestingly, the sources occasionally mention that for these pure energy beings to interact in a dense reality like ours, they might need some kind of focusing or containment, so they don't just dissipate.
Fascinating. It definitely paints a picture of a very busy universe. What about Earth's past? The sources tackle things like Atlantis, Egypt.
They really do.
Yeah.
And the perspectives offered are often very different from standard history. Atlantis, for example.
Yeah, what's the story there?
The recurring theme is its destruction resulted from misusing immense power. Power related to the mind, crystals, tapping into the Earth's core energy. Basically, technology and abilities may be used before the wisdom was there to handle them responsibly.
A cautionary tale, then.
Very much so. It raises questions about cycles of civilization, progress versus wisdom.
And the pyramids. Not built by slaves hauling rocks.
According to these sources, no, or at least not primarily. The descriptions often involve levitation.
Levitation. Seriously.
Yeah, and the focused mental energy of large groups of people, apparently guided by beings from what's often called a disc or ship, using sound, vibration, and focused intent to move the stones.
That implies a total different understanding of physics, of energy.
Completely. A deeper connection to and manipulation of natural energies. And then there's this idea of a great library.
A library. Where?
Not a physical place.
Yeah.
It's described as being on the spirit plane, a non-physical repository holding, like all of Earth's history, everything that's ever happened, thought, or felt.
The Akashic Records, basically.
That's a common term for it, yeah. The idea is that information isn't lost. It's just stored differently, accessible through consciousness.
Wow. Okay. And Easter Island. Those giant heads.
Linked in these sources to Lemuria, another supposed lost continent, sometimes seen as preceding Atlantis.
And how were they made?
Again, mental power. The idea is that Lemurians had a highly developed consciousness and could manifest or shape matter through thought and intention. Moving those statues wasn't a physical problem in the way we see it.
Okay. And people living inside the Earth.
That comes up too. Mentions of beings residing in vast cities underground, either survivors from past cataclysms or perhaps other types of beings entirely. It adds another layer of mystery to the planet.
It really does. It makes you question, well, everything we assume about history. Let's circle back to energy and consciousness. That seems to be the bedrock under all these concepts.
It absolutely is. A core message is that consciousness isn't just a result of having a brain. It's fundamental. It's primary.
It exists even without a body.
Yes. As pure awareness, pure energy, that has huge implications for how we think about life, death, what happens after.
And we're all connected through it, this collective consciousness idea.
That's key. The sources stress there's no real separation. We're all nodes in this vast network of consciousness, interconnected expressions of that larger source we talked about.
Like ripples in the same pond?
A good analogy.
Yeah.
And they also talk about energy fields, fields holding the earth together, fields generated by thought and emotion. Advanced beings, it's suggested, can perceive and interact with these fields directly.
Manipulate energy.
Right. And crystals. They keep coming up as tools for this.
What's their role again?
They're described as natural amplifiers, storage devices, directors of energy. Ancient civilizations supposedly understood this far better than we do now, using them for healing, communication, power.
Okay. And all this connects to personal growth, like raising your vibration.
Definitely. Raising your personal frequency, your vibration, is presented as essential for spiritual progress. It's linked to letting go of fear, embracing love, and potentially aligning with this transition to a new earth, a higher state of collective being. Our consciousness, individually and together, shapes the reality we experience.
So it really does come back to us, to our inner state. How does this translate into practical things like healing?
This is where the concept of the subconscious, or the SC as it's often abbreviated in the transcripts, is really important.
But not subconscious like Freud meant.
No, not quite.
Yeah.
In this context, the SC isn't just where you stuff unwanted memories. It's described as this incredibly vast, wise part of ourselves. It's connected to all knowledge, universal consciousness, all our past experiences, past lives.
He knows everything about us.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And it holds the key to healing, according to these sources, because unresolved stuff, especially from past lives, deep emotional wounds or patterns.
They can cause problems now, like physical illness.
Exactly. The idea is that these energetic blockages or imbalances from past traumas can manifest as physical ailments or emotional issues in the current life.
So accessing that SC knowledge helps you find the root cause.
Precisely. By understanding the origin, the underlying emotional charge, you can consciously work to release that energy, that blockage. And that allows the body's natural healing ability to take over.
And the sources say we can direct this healing.
Strongly emphasize it. It's not about passively waiting for something external. It's about recognizing our own inherent power to direct our energy, our intention for healing, and really for creating our reality.
So we have agency. We're not just victims of circumstance or past events.
Not at all. The path forward, as presented here, involves cultivating self-awareness, really looking at our patterns, consciously choosing to release fear, letting go of limiting beliefs.
And trusting intuition.
Absolutely. Following that inner guidance is seen as crucial for navigating this journey and tapping into that deeper understanding, that deeper potential.
Okay, so wrapping this up. This deep dive, based on the Convoluted Universe material you shared, it's painted a picture of reality that's, wow, incredibly multi-layered.
Definitely. Dimensions beyond our usual perception, parallel possibilities.
And the soul's journey, not just one life, but this vast trek of learning and experience originating from a source, using mechanisms like karma for growth.
Right, and being part of a much larger oversoul with connections to volunteers, maybe even walk-ins.
Then there's the interconnectedness. Everything linked through consciousness, through energy fields, interactions with interdimensional beings, alternative histories for places like Atlantis and Egypt.
And the fundamental role of energy itself, manipulated through consciousness, maybe using tools like crystals, and all leading back to our own potential for healing and growth by accessing that deeper part of ourselves, the SC.
It's a lot. And again, we have to emphasize this is all drawn directly from the sources provided by our listener. It's their perspective on these huge topics.
Absolutely. It's a unique framework, offering a different way to look at existence.
Which kind of leads us to a final thought for you, the listener. If you consider even the possibility of this multi-dimensional reality, this power of consciousness that these sources describe, what limitations might you be accepting right now, maybe unconsciously, that aren't actually real?
Yeah, what boundaries have you drawn around your own potential, your own reality is definitely something to ponder.
Food for thought. Well, thank you for sharing these sources with us. Truly fascinating stuff. And thanks to everyone for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time.